Hey, how are you doing? Welcome to this lecture on the most commonly used data structure of Python, and that is list. Before actually jumping to the list, let me give you a scenario why these data structures are important. What if I say store my 10 data for names as you like, but it can be stored so that you can reference it for the future use. So till now we have only studied one method, and that is by the common variables. So what we would normally do is create the 10 variables to store each of them, and that's a lot of work and can be even tedious when I say store thousands of data. So what you normally do, you create each variable as, let me say, name1, and store as, let me say, Dan, and similarly you could store thousands of names like this, creating each of the variables, and it is basically wastage of the memory too. So there should be some structures so that we can store this huge amount of data and I can reference them. So let's learn about most common structure in this lecture. So how to create the list basically. So this is the list that I say here, list, let me say our list. So our list will be this angular bracket. So basically this list is created by this square angular bracket, and any element you put here, that is, let me say, numbers. So these numbers are the element of this list. So comma is given basically in between each elements, and when I press enter now, our list is created. So when I print this number list, let me see our list here, you could see this list which has a number of data that we just stored in our list, and we could see all of these numbers printed rather than just one, which would be the case of a normal variable. So we could also see the type of our list. In order to see this, I'll just call this type function and just pass our list here, and you could see our list is of class list. So one flexible thing about list in the Python is you can have multiple data type inside them. For example, let me create a list and that contains different data type, let me say number, string, and booleans too. So I'll create the new list here, and list is usually created by this square bracket, and just give here first string, let me say it contains string, and similarly let me say it also contains numbers, and similarly booleans. So when you just create this and hit enter, so let me type it again because this A has only one quote. So let me just copy it again and paste it here, and instead of this single quote, let me just put double and hit enter. So this is valid because it permits basically all of these data types, that is in this case string, numbers, and booleans. So when you just print this list here, and you could see that all of these elements are inside this list. So one thing to remember here is lists are an iterable data type. That means you can break it into the little piece as elements, and each element or item has its own index which start from 0 basically, and they count from there, and index allows to access those items. So what if I want to access or extract this C element? Then what we can do is basically we can just use this new list first. This is the name of our list, and you put something that is square bracket in order to reference the element. And always just remember that list always start from 0th index. That means this A is at 0, and B is at 1, C is at 2, and so on. So what if I want to access this 1? That means it is normally at 4 because A is at 0, 1, 2, 3. So when I just put here 3, that means you get one element, that is 1 from this list. What if you want this true? Then you just put here a new list and count this index accordingly, and index should be provided inside this square bracket. So it should be, this true should be in 0 1 2 3 4 5 6. So just pass here 6 and you could get here true. And also you can count it from the backward, an element that is at the last, that means this false is at -1 and this is at -2 -3 and so on. What if I want this -4 from the last? That means we have here -1 -2 and -3. So when I say new list and -3, like here new list, and just give this square bracket in order to reference, and when I say -3 and just hit enter, it means 4, because false is at -1 -2 and -3 and so on. So what if you want to take out more than one element? Well, for this you need to use the slice, and we discussed slice previously in our string lectures. Go back and have a look at this lecture for more information. And let's say we want to just extract these numbers from here, that means 1 2 3. So what you can do here is you can just reference first the list variable, that is new list, and give this square bracket in order to start with the slicing, and just give this 2 column. So here the first column is basically the start point, and this position is for the stop point, which is basically exclude position, and the next is basically our step. So let me give here space so you could just see clearly. So this part, basically this part where I have a cursor, is our start position. So what is the start position? Basically you put here an index, that means you count the index now from 0 1 2 3, because we need from 1, so you should put here 3. And this is the stoppage position, that is stop position, but this is basically exclude position. That means you have to just increase with 1 that you want, basically. That means it is at 3 4 5. So if you just put here 5, that means this 4 will be excluded, but we need this 4, that means increase with 1. That means you put here 6, and this is the step, which is default 1. So let's hit enter, and you could see something that is a list out of this big list, which is a slice, and it is 1 3 4 that we needed. So you can just get this true and false accordingly. Let me say, what if I say here that is new list, and get me the start position, and start position here is 0 1 2 3 4 5 6, and I say 6 here, and stop will be at the last because we have now at the false. So I don't put anything here, that means default will be to the end, and just give the step as 1, that is default, and just you hit enter, then you could see something that is true and false here. As string lecture, in the string lecture we call it the string as a immutable. So same as a string, list are also immutables and iterable. Immutable means they cannot be replaced but can be overridden, and iterable in a sense they can be broken down into the smaller elements, and we can extract each element from them, that we did here. And another important thing about the list is we can have another list inside this list. That means let me create here new list, maybe I'll create this our list, and we can have a nested list inside this list. So that means we have 2 1 and 2 number, and I can create the another list inside this list. Let me say 3 4 5 another list, and I'll say 6 and 7. So how can we get this list from here? It works exactly same as we did before, that is just in the here getting the first element, and it also works same as here, that is we did here with an index 0. So that means this 1 is at 0th index, 2 is at 1 index, and this whole list is at 2 index. That means when I say here just hit to create the list, and when I reference this list with this square bracket, and when I say this list is at 2 position, that means when I say here 2, that is when I passed here 2, then it is all of this list, that is 3 4 5, which is at position 2. So what if I want to just access this 4 from this bigger list? That means we can do it by again passing this to here, and after that each element in this list, that is the nested list, is also started from 0th index. So that means 3 is at 0, 4 is at 1, and 5 is at 2. So that means when you want this fourth element, then what you're gonna do is just pass here 1, and when you hit enter, you could get something that is 4. What if I want this 7th out of this, basically this list? Then I can just say here, press the our list in order to reference that list variable, and 1 is at 0, 1, and this whole list is 2, and this is basically at 3. This whole list is basically at 3, and another reference can be created in order to get this element, and this 6 is at 0th and 7 is at 1. That means when I just hit here 1 and hit enter, then you could say 7. Now let's see some inbuilt method of the list. So I can append item to the list by saying something that is our list, and just call this append function in the list, and this append is basically the inbuilt method that adds the item to our list. So when I say append, let me say new item, and when I just append it, then you could see now our list by printing it, and you could see new item has been added at the last of our list. That means this was our list, and in this list the last item is added as a new item. So append method basically is an inbuilt method that's add an item to our list, and we also have the pop method in order to get the item out of our list. So just reference our list and just call the pop method. So when you just call this pop method, now a new item has been popped. Let me create a space here, and when you just print our list, that is again our list, you could see the new item, that is new item has been removed from our list. So basically this our list, that's basically this pop method has only popped out the item from the last. What if we want to pop this 2 element? That means you can do it by something that is index. So first put here our list, and now you just call this pop method, and instead of just not passing anything, we pass here index. That means when I say first index, that is this 1 is at 0th and 2 is at 1. So when I say 1, now 2 has been pop out, and when I just print it our list again, you could see list without this 2. We have another function that is len function in order to get the length of our list, and when I say len and our list, and you could see suggestion here, this returns the number of item in the container. Here a container is a list. So when I say our list, get me the length of our list, that means 3, because we have the list here that is containing 3 items. So this whole list is considered as 1, and the element in the list is obviously 3. So we have covered some basically three main important function, inbuilt function. You can also check for the documentation for additional functions, but this function that is basically append, pop, and the length are very important function to deal with. So this will be the wrap for this video. So see you in the next.